Let's talk finances. Firstly, let me say what I don't do. I don't do Patreon, I don't do GoFundMe, I don't do any other type of crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. If I can't afford to go, I don't go. I don't want other people to pay my way. Secondly, I'm not paid by any sponsors to ride around the world. That's a big misconception that a lot of people think that people are sponsored and they ride around the world for free. I personally don't know anybody. I'm sure there is, but I don't know them. I have a few select sponsors. They give me gear, and in return they want first-hand information, how the gear is, how it reacts, how it lasts. I do reviews and sometimes written reviews. Do I have a donate button on my website? Yes, I do. It's in the finance section. So if you go there, you'll see it says must love dogs. So if you're inclined to give me money, what I do with that money is I buy dog food. I feed stray dogs, or if I stay with people, I buy them dog food or toys or whatever. And in return, I take portraits of the dogs. And it seems to work out. It seems like a fair trade for the dogs, and that's it. That's where the money goes. So if you are sending me money, I promise not to eat the dog food. Okay, so that's the negative stuff. So let's move on. I broke this down into two parts: how much it costs and how I make money. So it's looking at the computer. It's about 9 pages. So expect to sit here for a little while if you want to get all the information, and I would get a drink because I got a drink. So first up, what does it cost? It's a question that you get asked a lot, a hell of a lot. I mean, it's more than a decade, about 10 and a half, going on 11 years. Couldn't even tell you, probably thousands and thousands of times people ask me, how much does it cost, or how do you afford to do it? So this way, by doing this now, I can turn around and say, go look at this video. This is what I'm doing this for. So if you're going to do around the world, or you're going to do a multiple country, whether it be multiple months, chances are you're not just going to make some crazy decision and say, hey, I'm leaving in the morning. It's going to take time. You're going to plan. If you're going to do around the world, chances are you're going to plan for a year or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, I don't know, but it's going to take time. So in that time, that planning time, that's when you should be figuring out exactly what's going to happen with your finances. In general, there's 3 different ways people fund long-term travel. They either have the money, basically they're rich. They intend to work as they go along, have a little bit of money maybe, and then work as they go along to generate some income. Or they have possessions that they're going to sell, and they sell all their possessions and use that money to travel, and maybe do a little bit of work along the way, maybe not. So those are the 3 main ways that I've met people. I'm sure there's other ways, but I mean, a combination of the 3 is the common ways of travel. So if you're doing motorcycle travel, there's a few different variations that I would say of motorcycle travel. There's you can be a solo rider in a large group, like an organized group that you may have organized yourself, or you may have paid to go on a tour. You could be 2 people riding on 1 motorcycle, you could be 2 people riding on 2 motorcycles, or you could be just a solo rider. So the solo rider, there's 2 variations the way I look at it. There's a solo rider, the person that is completely solo, that they basically look to be by themselves. They go out, they like the solitude, they like their own company. And then the other type of solo rider is somebody that rides by themselves but looks to find other people and meet up with them, and in some cases share costs of, hotel rooms and things like that to reduce their expenses. So in my experience, the traveling with a large group is the most expensive way to go. The reason is because you become more social, because you have multiple people around you, and you tend to to go out and do more and see more and possibly sit in a bar and drink and that kind of thing. So for me, when I was doing that, I was averaging around $55 a day. But also keep in mind that when you've been that social person, yeah, it's great and it's fun and whatever, that it has an expense. So just keep in the back of your mind, it might not bother you in the slightest, but then again, you may not have calculated it out. If you stop and you have a beer or two, let's say you spend $3-4 on beer, and you do that every day, and you're with a group every day. If you do that, you take $4 and you multiply that by $365, that's over a month's worth of travel just for 1 or maybe 2 beers a day. So it's something to consider. That's an expense. You'll find when you're riding that it doesn't seem like a lot, a couple of bucks here and there, but things like that do add up over the long term. So if you had a budget for a year's worth of travel and you have a beer every day, hey, all of a sudden now you're only going for 11 months. 2012 to 2015, I was riding solo, and I was averaging around $40-ish a day. Didn't really keep track, but just kind of calculated it out from my bank account. So yeah, $40 a day, solo travel. There were some fluctuations from 2016 onwards. I started keeping track of it. So I wanted to know where the money was going. And that way I could budget ahead and try and figure my money out and know my expenses. Not down to the penny, but just like rough idea. So there's lots of ways you can do this. There's lots of apps out there now, but for me, I put it on the computer. I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I just break it down to 4 different categories. I have fuel, speaks for itself. Accommodation, so whether it's hotels or motels or campsites or whatever it may be, or if I stay with somebody and I give them money towards my stay, like a homestay, that kind of thing. Food. Everything I'm going to eat, and then the 4th one I just put as miscellaneous. So that could be shipping, it could be visas, it could be phone cards, it could be replacement clothes, it could be entry into museums, things like that. That stuff generally doesn't happen every day. It might be once or twice a week. There might be something. So for me, it was easy just to, on the Excel spreadsheet, just to put a little note what it was, rather than having 24 different categories, so that's just how I do it, how my mind works. In 2016, I swapped to riding 2 up on 1 motorcycle, and my average then, I was covering all the costs, my average then went up to $65 a day from around $40-ish a day. 2017 and 18, swapped to 2 bikes, and again covering the costs, and it went up slightly. Surprisingly, you'd think it would go up a lot, but it didn't. It went up to $66 and $69 a day as an average for 2017-18. 2019-20, I went back to being solo, and I was pretty consistent around the $40 a day mark. So if you calculate all this together, averages out to $49.50 a day. So with a few years in there riding with 2 people, if you kind of take a little bit away, let's call it $45 a day. So $45 a day times 365 days is $16,425 per year, or an average of $1,368 per month. Now you're probably asking yourself what kind of lifestyle that was. I originally left in March 2011, and since that day I've stayed in a hostel, so a shared room with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 people 3 times in 10 years. So I don't, a lot of the time, or most of the time I camp, but I don't look for hostels, dorm rooms, which a lot of people do because they use that to cut their expenses. I don't like that. It's not me. I'd rather pay the extra couple of dollars and have a private room. So for me, it's not worth the saving on the budget. So you might hear that, around $40 a day and think, hey, that's pretty good. I could do that. But I could also tell you I've met riders that spend $100,000 in a year. I've also met riders that spend $10 or $15 in a day. The whole thing about budgets is people are just throwing at you just an arbitrary number that it doesn't really matter because it's not you. You're not riding how I ride, where I ride, when I ride, what I eat, what I do, what I go see, what I don't see, you know, how much I twist the throttle more or less than you. So you got to take all these numbers with a pinch of salt. I mean, basically, if you look at it, the easy way to do it, I'm going to put a link, hopefully it'll be down here somewhere, that a good day once you get away from the first world is probably around 150 to 250 kilometers a day. So if you know where you're going, you take that, you figure out your miles per gallon or your liters per 100 kilometers, and you go onto this website, which is it's called globalpetrolprices.com. If you go on there, and then you just make that calculation, so you see what it's going to cost you. Fuel is generally going to be your big expense when you travel around the world, as long as you camp a little bit. So your fuel prices are going to be where a lot of your money goes. A good 20 to 40% of your money will be on that. So the rest of the time, the rest of the day is going to be somewhere between $10 and $100, depends on, you know, what you like to eat, what kind of place you like to stay in, or if you're wild camping. And then you just multiply that out by the month or by the quarter or by the year, and that's what your budget will be. And then you just see how close you get to it. And the longer you do this, the more accurate you'll know where and how you spend the money. So that was pretty simple what it costs. I mean, you know, take it or leave it. I mean, I'm just giving you from my personal experience. The next thing is making money. How do you make money? How do you afford to ride around the world? How do you afford to go on long trips? How do you afford to be on the road indefinitely? How do you do it? There's different ways of doing this. I'll tell you how I did it. You can do similar or the same or completely different, but I'll just give you an idea how I do it and how I've stayed on the road, how I can afford to be on the road now indefinitely. So first I want to read this out because just because. So I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to give you personal financial advice. Just sharing my experiences, how I did it. The point of the video is just to let you know how I create income and just more for motivation. So please, in the comments, please don't ask me for stock picks and ETFs and mutual funds and how, you know, actual numbers of how much money I make. I'm not going to tell you. That's my personal information, and I don't want to spend your money for you, because if it goes wrong, I don't want to be responsible. Finances, the very, very, very first thing I did, and if you look at the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. If you look at them, that's a good comparison. And I was doing this before I even knew that thing existed. So the very first thing I did, and the very first thing you should do, is you should know what your net worth is. So it's kind of the easy way to do it is the morbid way. Let's imagine you die, that you have no friends, no family, it's just you. So if you take the number that you have in the bank, whatever your currency is, take that number, and then go around your house, your apartment, your flat, whatever it is you live in, and look at every single thing that you own and get a realistic value, what the retail value of every single thing would be. Add all that stuff up. You know, your TV, your car, your tables, chairs, knives, forks, whatever it is. And then 10%, maybe 20% of that value is what it's worth if you died. And that's what you add all that together, and that would be your net worth. So that's the first calculation you want to make, so you know this is going to help you know how long realistically you can stay on the road for, or how much money you're going to need to make to stay on the road. So based on your calculation, in my case, so $45 a day, $16,425. If you look in your bank account and you have $16,425, you can afford to go away for a year and not have any worries. If you want to go for 2 years and you don't have, over 32,000, now you need to liquidate some of your assets or generate some more income for you to go longer. And then the longer you want to go, the more you have to generate. So what I did my net worth, and in cash I had literally a few $1,000s. That was about it. And I had what most people would look at as junk, and I looked at as my prized possessions. But I looked at them and thought, okay, some of these prized possessions I don't need. If I go away and come back in a few years, will I really need these things, or would I rather sell them and have that money and have the life experience of travel? So what I did, once I got that initial net worth figure, I recalculated that constantly. I kept my eye on that. So I sold stuff off that I never used. I stopped my cable TV. I ate cheaper food. I moved to a cheaper place to live. I actually rented a room out to somebody for a short time. I looked for any way that I could make some money. I put myself in a very tight budget, and then every month I tried to beat that budget. But the other thing I did was I opened an investment account, and the money that I'd saved, I now put that into investments. So even if that was just a few dollars, I still put it away. I don't need more than about a month or so budget to live. If I needed the money, I could cash it out from an investment account and I could get at it. But I want the money to work for me rather than just sitting in the bank. So in my free time, this is obviously before I set off, I was working. In my free time, what I would do, or what I did, was I looked for around the first month or so of travel. I kind of figured out which direction I wanted to head. Once I knew that, I did a little research of the things I could see and do for the first month or 6 weeks. So then after that, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to have so much free time when you're on the road. You can research that stuff on a daily basis if you want to. So rather than sitting there looking at maps and looking at guides of different places and watching videos of things, I invested my time into looking at financial statements, looking at different types of investments, looking at ways that every time I saved a dollar, where I was going to put that dollar. To me, that was more important, because that gave me the opportunity to basically know that I could keep traveling for a longer period of time. So how initially I did it, this is before I left. I mean, I looked at the stuff that I had, and I was selling stuff on eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, where else? I'm looking down my list. I go to swap meets, things like that. But I wasn't just only selling stuff. I was also, as I was doing this, I was looking at things that I knew. And I was also buying stuff as well. So I was basically flipping things. So there's key, I wrote them down because they actually make a point, and there's a way of making money. I looked for keywords like divorce, estate sales, death, leaving the town, leaving the country. I went to garage sales, swap meets. I also flipped motorcycles. I would see if the motorcycle that I knew pretty well seemed underpriced, then I could buy it. If it had some good parts on it, then maybe I could take the parts off and just part the bike out. It was worth more in pieces than it was as a whole. And again, that accumulated cash. So with that, it didn't matter what it was. If I made an extra $5 or $10 in a day, I invested that $5 or $10. I put it away because it's money that I didn't have. I still had enough coming in from from a job that I was working a part-time job, but I still had enough coming in to cover my rent, to cover my food, to cover my basic expenses. So anything I made, I saved, I invested. So remember, I have that figure of $45 in my head. So, you know, if I turn around and I bought a few times, I bought bikes and then just parted them out to pieces. And I'd sell off some handguards for $100. And in my head, I'm thinking 2 days travel. So if I bought something on eBay and for $10 and sold it for 15, I was like, hey, that's might be, you know, half a tank of gas somewhere, you know. So that was, you need to get into that mindset. So my goal for this was, obviously I'm making a little bit of money as I'm working. I just want to underline this here. I never earned a lot of money. So don't think that I started off and I was rich. I never had a high paying job. And I read somewhere the other day that 33% of people that become millionaires have never earned more than $100,000 in a year. So if that's the case, then I'm not a millionaire, but I've never earned more than $100,000 a year either. So the key is, and I've read this multiple times, and I'm sure if you've even looked into investments, you've probably heard or read it, that you want to make money while you sleep. Basically, your investments are making money. So you want to make money while you sleep. So you're putting your money to work. So in my case, I was doing this for a little while and started to accumulate some money. And I accumulated enough that I could afford a cheap condo. I didn't want a mortgage because I didn't want the debt. If I bought something, I wanted to buy it outright. So I found a cheap condo that I could afford to buy, and I pay cash for it. So no mortgage, and that generated a positive income. So now I have that money over and above all the little hustles that I'm doing here and there, making money, and I'm investing that. And keep going. And then I got to a point where, hey, look, I have enough, I can buy a second place. So that's what I did. I bought a little cheap house and rented that out. So now I have two positive forms of income over and above the buying, the selling, and the job money that I've got. And all of that, besides what I needed for the month, everything went into investments. Once that I got that ball rolling, doing pretty good, and then I realized, hey, I've got enough money. I can go do this. So I take off, and you still need to think about, you know, ahead and when you're going to come back and what have you. But, you know, if your ultimate goal is to travel, then you need to look at your own skill set and see if there's anything you can do. So when you leave, you can look at when you're on the road, you can look at websites like HelpX, Woofing, Workaway, that you could go and use. You know, maybe you're a mechanic, maybe you're a plumber, electrician. You could go and work somewhere, and basically you give your skills in trade for food and accommodation. So there's a way that you can actually travel, and you get a little bit more immersed. You're probably going to learn the local language a little bit better. That's a quick and easy way. If you're not accumulating enough money, that you can actually cover some of your costs. But before I left, I still had a pile of stuff. Even though I wanted to leave, I had a pile of stuff. So what I did, I had some stuff that I donated as a tax write-off, because you're still going to have to pay taxes regardless. And I also had stuff that still had a value that hadn't sold yet. So I went onto eBay, and if you're not familiar with eBay, there's a listing that you can do. It's called Good Till Cancelled, and it's a free listing, and then you pay your fee when the thing sells. So basically, what I did, I take photos of the stuff, write a description, and put a number in at the bottom of the description. You know, let's say A12, and I box the thing up. I know exactly what it's going to cost to ship, so I have that in the listing. And on the outside of the box, I write A12, and I gave a bunch of boxes to a few different friends and said, hey, if these sell, do you mind dropping them off at the post office for me? And what I do, I go online, and when it sells, and I just print off the shipping label, I email it to them, they drop it off at the post office. Hey, bingo, I've got some more money. So if none of this is none of this is working for you in your head and you say, I can't do this, or I have no way to find this, then what you want to do is you want to go onto Google and search passive income ideas. There's dozens, hundreds, thousands of them, and then find what works for you. You might actually be able to find something that not only you could do while you're at home, while you're trying to accumulate the money to go, but you actually might come up with something that it's going to work for you when you're on the road, that generates passive income without you being in your hometown or country, or a way to generate some income while you travel, just with the skill set that you already have. So with the articles thing, I mean, I was writing articles for free in $20, $30, $40, whatever, something like that. Yeah, they generate money. It's not consistent, but you can't look at one thing to make money. So what I was doing, I was just looking at lots of different ways. I've been through Central America a few times, and all you read on forums and different group pages is about the nightmare that, you know, going through those Central America border crossings is. They don't make sense. So I wrote a book about it. I literally, as I went through, I took photos, single photo of each building. And you need to go to 3 or 4. Building 1, building 2, building 3, even though they don't have a sign above the door that. I describe, okay, when you go to this building, you pay $5. You go to this building, you have this piece of paper. Click, take a photo. It took me, I don't know, maybe a month or so to put the book together, and I did it in Blurb, which is, you know, website blurb.com, which is not the best place. It's an easy place to put a book together, but not the best place to make money out of it. The book sells with them, and it sells on Amazon as well. And I just did it more to give back, not to make a profit. So I think I make, this may sound ridiculous, but I think I make 39 cents for every book that sells. And when I first did it, it was back in 2011, 2012, I was making $300 to $500 a year just from that. That took me probably 10 hours to put together. So, you know, that's not a bad way of turning things around. So I had various little ways of generating income, whether it be passively or you know, I was actually going out and physically having to do something, write something, take photos, whatever it may be. And I got to a point where I had 13 different passive incomes. None of them were phenomenal. None of them made great amounts of money, but combined together, it started to work. It started to generate money. So I went through from the last from today going back 27 months, I started tracking this because I figure eventually I was going to do a finances video, because simply the volume of questions that I get. So I've calculated those out. So this is what over 27 months averaged out. This is what income was generated from a few things. Written articles, $1,203 a month. Property income, $2,080 a month. Photography income, you would think this would be a big number, $22 a month. Amazon income, so write a few articles, and the ones that I put on my website, put some affiliate links, and it doesn't cost you anything. You read an article and you use my affiliate link as the gateway to Amazon, and I get you know, a few pennies from whatever you buy. Amazon now generates me $75 a month, so that's okay. That's slowly increasing. From the stock market, I mean, my stocks are doing their own thing, my investments are doing their own thing, but I have some that generate a dividend, and my dividends, I don't have many dividend stocks, but the ones that I do have, $275 a month. So it's something, but it adds up. Book sales, I have 2 books that I'd written, one about the border crossings and one about the business that I used to own, and that generates a massive total of $5.50 average per month. But it's something. That's a meal. That's one meal a month that I'm not physically decreasing my net worth. That's how you have to look at it. If you look at that, that averages out at $3,660 a month coming in. And if you remember, my outgoings were $1,368 a month. So I'm traveling around the world doing what I want, whenever I want, however I want. I mean, at the moment I'm sitting still because of the pandemic, but in general, I'd be traveling around the world. And I have a positive after all my expenses of around $2,300, which of course gets invested, which in course then will generate more income. So in 2008, I knew zero, and I mean zero about investing. I knew what the stock market was. I didn't really know anything about it, didn't know how to do anything at all. And that long ago versus now, it's so much easier now, so much easier. But like I said earlier, I sat and I read everything that I could and taught myself about investing. Now, my investments, I did use a financial advisor for a few months, and it was just the percentages that they were taking was way too high, so I fired him. And since then I've just done everything myself. And it's risky doing it yourself, but in my case it's paid off. So if you do go down this road, then you need to know the difference between long-term investing, swing trading, options, day trading, all different types of investments. For me, I do long-term trades, which means I just buy and I hold, and then as I get some more spare cash, I just buy a little bit more, and I kind of spread it between various stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, dividend stocks, that kind of thing. So I've been doing this now for 13 years, and just slow and steady. And initially, like I said, I was doing my net worth every 3 to 6 months, and you hope that you see an increase, and it's great when you do. But as time goes on, things get better. And if you're ever worried about investing and you kind of look at the stock market and you see, oh, there was a big drop today or a big drop this week, all I can tell you is just zoom out. Look out to a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and any decent stock, any decent investment you'll find over time will go up in value. And then the opposite of this is the cash that's in your pocket and inflation. I mean, if you're in the States or in Western Europe, you're looking at 2 or 3%. So every little bit of cash that you have is losing value. So if you put away, let's say, 100 grand for your round the world travels, and you just put it in the bank and you didn't do a thing with it, and you're going to spend 15, 20 grand a year, and you're thinking, well, I got 5 years or so of travel. You need to sit and look at how that loses money. You're losing a couple of percent. So if you take a couple of percent away, on a consistent basis, it's basically taken away from your travel. So if you're looking at investments and making 8 to 10%, minus inflation, you're making about 8%. I would rather make 8% than lose 2%. When I'm traveling, I mean, sometimes you just get bored. You just get your brain. It's funny. Your brain gets full. It's you just don't want to. You don't want to keep going. It might be that every mountain just becomes another mountain. Every town square becomes another town square. Sometimes you just need to just decompress, and you need to sit down and find a place. So you find somewhere. I mean, for me, what I do, I look on Airbnb, and if I find a place that I like and I'm just kind of in the mood to not go anywhere, I just look for discounts. And a lot of people on Airbnb, if you stay longer than a week, they give you a discount. If you stay a month, they give you a bigger discount. I mean, the best one I found, I got a 68% discount for a condo that was on the beach, and it was $368 a month, including utilities, including Wi-Fi. This was in Crete in Greece, and absolutely phenomenal. It was walking distance to a supermarket, and if you're not moving or you're traveling slowly, you're saving money. while I'm doing that, so if I'm sitting still, that's kind of when I'll sit back and I'll start looking again a little bit more heavily at investments, and that's generally when I'll make more money because I'm concentrating a little bit more on it. So rather than it just happening passively, I'm kind of pushing it becoming a little bit more aggressive investing. So you can see that in, I'll show you a graph of me from when I started at virtually at zero, and you can tell when I was traveling, and the increase is very slow and steady, and then you can tell the parts where I stopped for a little while, and you'll see blips, and that's generally when I was investing a little bit more and being a little bit more aggressive. And then of course there's going to be dips, and the dips are when the economy dips. Generally it's not because of me, it's not because of major expense, it's because of the economy. So don't be afraid, don't jump out because you see a dip. Just stick with it. The thing you look at 2020 and March in 2020, biggest decline in the stock market in such a rapid amount of time. But from March 2020 to March 2021, everything, all investments turned around, the market turned around, and it turned out to be one of the best times if you actually saw it and you spotted it and you jumped on it. So I'm not telling you this. I'm not telling you this to brag or pat myself on the back. I'm just telling you how it can be done. You just need to take the time, sit down, and educate yourself. And it's incredible. It's incredible to sit there and watch it happen, and it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying, but it can become a little obsessive. Everybody starts small, and I remember the first time I made $100 in a month on the stock market, and I was, woo, this is it's the greatest thing ever. And then it was $100 in a week, then it was $100 in a day, then it was $500 in a month, or $500 in a day, or $1,000 in a day, or more. You have those. You might have a fluke day that you make more than what it's going to cost to travel around the world for a year in one day. It has happened, not very often, but it has happened. So all I can tell you is dig your net worth, spare cash, invest it, give yourself a budget, stay on the budget, and then move forward from there. You take this as motivation I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm just somebody who likes motorcycles, likes travel, and I'm just doing my own thing, traveling around the world. And on the side, I'm just doing a little investing, got some passive income, and enjoying it. And if I can do it, if I can do it, you can do it. I can't tell you how much. It's that easy. It really is. It is that easy. You have to acknowledge that it takes time, and you just have to be consistent. I hope this is not too much of a ramble, or it's too long, or feel like I'm preaching to you. That's not what was intended. All I want to do is I'm just passing it forward. I'm just information that I've learned along the way, experiences I've had, knowledge that I've gained. I'm just passing it forward. So that's all these videos are for. I'm not pushing a YouTube channel, you subscribe here, there, wherever it is. I'm not. You do whatever you want to do, but I'm just trying to let you know what is possible. And if you're sitting there thinking, I hate my job, I hate my town, I want to ride more, hopefully this is motivation enough for you to do that, to get out there, to enjoy motorcycling how you want to enjoy it. And it's there. I'm telling you, it's feasible. I mean, if I started with a few grand and now I don't really have too much of a concern. Don't take from that I'm extremely wealthy, because I'm not. And that's it for now. So I will see you in the next video. I can't remember which one it is, but I'll see you in the next video, and go get you some adventure. What I don't do is I don't buy souvenirs. My souvenirs, I save the smallest, some of the smallest bills or notes of countries that I travel through for, that's my souvenirs. That and photographs. So I, just random stuff. That's actually a guy I met who is now in prison for multiple murder. Scotland. Republic of Cuba. Che Guevara. Bahamas. $3 bill. That is a shilling from somewhere. Not sure where. Some krona. So that type of thing. Jamaica.